Hello everyone and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ads Lyson. Before we get started with the podcast this week, if you want to get 15% off your surfing and outdoor gear, look no further. Go to Northcore on the internet and use the code capital letters GrumpySurfer15 to receive 15% off your purchase. Also, the WaveKey guys, i.e. Brad Gerlach, has given me a 10% code to use until the 1st of July. Use the code WaveKey Grump to receive 10% off your subscription for your WaveKey technique. Well, we made it. This episode this week signifies the 1-year anniversary of the Grumpy Surfer podcast, episode 50. So thank you everybody for your support, your downloads and your follows on Instagram and Facebook. Without you, the podcast would not have been the success that it is today. So today's episode is going to be two previous podcast guests. On the episode this week, we talk about how to choose a surfboard, whether you're a beginner, intermediate or advanced surfer, and a little bit about the WSL. So please enjoy my conversation with John Jameson and Dan Maker, the GreenOverhead boys. John Jameson and Dan Maker, welcome to the first three-way podcast. How you doing, lads?
Love a three-way.
I'm very good, thanks.
I've been waiting so long to say three-way for this. It's an amazing thing to say.
I think Dan is very excited at this point in time.
I am.
I think everyone should be aware that we all got our clothes on and we're not sat in our pants or string vests, so that's good.
Not yet.
No, we're hoping it gets that way though.
It's a good start. We've started at a great level.
It is, yeah.
We can only really go one way.
Low, yeah. and then go really, really high. Dan, you've been surfing the last few days. A bit of Bantam work going on?
Yeah, surfed at Bantam yesterday. It was a bit gnarly. Pretty classic onshore, only really towing it for exercise. There's not great quality waves there, but got a bit of a beating. Survived it.
I've got a really cool story about Bantam.
Have you?
Well, it's not really cool. I nearly fucking drowned, to be honest with you.
It's one of the worst places. It's fucking scary.
Yeah, I parked over the Bigbury side. It was a Christmas. So I was on my own. It was Boxing Day, about 7:30 in the morning. So the missus was
Wait, you were Christmas on your own?
A Boxing Day.
Oh, Boxing Day. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
So I went on my own, and so the missus was super happy with me on Boxing Day. Parked at the Bigbury end. It was quite big. Decided to paddle across the river mouth to get to the other side. The river mouth took me all the way up through past the island at the hotel and took me an hour to paddle back to the break, and by the time I got there I was wrecked anyway, so I got out.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, definitely, 100%. Right, lads, we're going to be talking about different types of boards, talking about the WSL. So let's start with that. So you've been watching the WSL comp at the moment over in Western Australia.
Yeah.
What are we thinking?
Well, it's an interesting one because we've obviously seen a big injury. We've seen some shock results in the ladies already. The wave looks really difficult to surf. It just looks like it's either you get a pumping left-hander or everything else is a closeout. So they're probably the only boys that can surf that wave. It's super exciting though, but the setup of it looks weird. You know, they're going in and out on a bus. How prepared are they? How much kit are they taking? They're surviving with one or two boards each. So it feels a bit like they're going about surfing the same way as we all do, which is one board and you just got to ride whatever's under your arm at the time. But there's some, I think, Griffin is surfing super good at the moment. But obviously, I'm still struggling to see past Medina for this one.
He's flying, isn't he? Literally flying.
Literally flying, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was watching Philippe the other day, but he seems I think all the Brazilians at the moment, they're just like super on fire. I don't think they can really put a foot wrong. I mean, apart from Tati got knocked out in the elimination round, even though she won over in Margaret River. So, yeah, I don't know. All my picks are still there, I think. No, who got knocked out? I can't remember who got knocked out on mine. I've got you on the WSL Fantasy League. No. Oh, man, you need to get on the Grumpy Surfer one. What's wrong with you? You need to get on it.
Because I'm a misery.
All I can say is it's a shame that Taj had to go out because that was very amusing, but he literally learnt a lesson, but he is like 42.
I don't know.
So,
I think that second, the elimination round, he at least caught some waves. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought he looked all right.
Yeah.
He was unlucky at the end. That guy got, I can't remember who it was.
He was surfing those stab boards though, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah, dark arts, bit of carbon on the go. The standout wave was Michel Perez, that at just how long he was in that barrel for. No one else is really getting slotted in. He was in that thing for ages. That's got to be the standout wave.
That was almost like a freak set that came through
Yeah,
that he caught, and it was just the perfect one to jump on, I think.
Have we seen a shark yet? I don't think we've seen a shark.
Yeah, there was.
Oh, was there?
It was the Philippe Toledo.
Oh, yeah. I was watching the
and the-
condensed heat replay.
Did you?
And they obviously cut it so they don't scare the audience.
Yeah, because what was it, that one? No, it was the Taj Burrow heat, because they came out and
Didn't they have to restart it or
yeah,
something?
Jack
right.
Robinson and who else were under the same coach, and they were talking about it, and Taj was saying, "Oh, but I've got priority when I go out though." He was more messing about. I think. I don't think he was taking it very seriously, if I'm perfectly honest.
No, it didn't seem like that. He was in it just for a bit of a laugh, and he was saying that if he gets in the way of somebody else's results doing well, and he's not in it for the long haul this season.
He's probably launching a new beer brand
Yeah,
or something, isn't
yeah,
he? Just get some name out there.
But it's good. This looks like a tricky wave to surf. I definitely hit the bottom there.
You don't reckon it'll be a regular stop then?
No.
Well,
After
they've
this year.
already said, haven't they? They had one of the local elders there, and they said, it's really nice that they're there, but they don't want them back. And he literally said that on
He did.
on
Yeah.
the commentary, which was kind of funny. There's loads of memes and stuff going around of that at the moment as well, which is kind of funny.
I think if they showed up at my local break and put it on the map, you'd be inundated with people wanting to go there, even if the wave wasn't that good.
What,
I mean, it'd be
Bantham?
so
On the
busy.
Bigbury side?
Yeah, I think on the Bigbury, you've got to paddle around the island to get in, though.
We talked
First
about
test.
Wembury. You want to get down Wembury, that's where you want to be.
No, you don't.
That's an uncharted territory right there. Secret spot. I can't say that word.
Locals only.
Locals only. Let's talk a little bit about what boards people should choose. I know it's a big, broad subject.
Really difficult one, isn't it, as well? It's like, and I think probably it doesn't matter at what level you're at, whether it be absolute top pro or complete beginner. It's such a difficult answer to come up with.
So let's start with ability level, because there's a big, for me, let's go all the way back to like if you were a beginner as well. So remember in the old days where you used to go to a surf shop and, whatever board you were going to buy was pretty much what was in that shop, and the shopkeeper pushed you towards like a mini-mal or mid-lengths, or what they're called now, aren't they?
We had, I think mine was a 6'4" pop-out back in those days. We didn't really have soft tops, did we?
Not that, no.
There was no swellies or anything
Yeah.
even in those days. And I went from a pop-out to boardwalk 6'4". But I look at it and when I remember, because I was nearly said it wasn't that long ago, but it was years ago. And the guy was like, kind of foam forward, easy paddle, exactly the same things that we're saying now about, not arguably the same boards. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, you'd think it was a really easy question to answer, right? Like, what board should you get as a beginner? But here's the quandary. My first board was as close as I could get to whatever Kelly Slater was riding.
It's because you're a lot younger than us.
Yeah, but I didn't stand up for 2 years. I just basically paddled around and duck dived for a very long time.
Did you have a white wetsuit as well?
Probably, yeah, probably. With a big Quicksilver sticker on it, yeah. And that's like, so, you've got people that pick a board because they want to be something, or they think that's the best board you can get because, like,
The best guys
the best guys are riding it. Or then you get some really decent advice, and it's like, well, if you're learning, here's how you start, here's how you enjoy it. But people have different views on what they're doing surfing for, and when you apply that to what sort of board people should buy, like either from beginner all the way up to like super advanced. By the time they're super advanced, they ought to know what they're surfing.
I don't think they do, though.
But people
even the
still,
guys.
people still will go like will buy a board for very different reasons. And it's really hard giving anybody any advice.
But where do they get all their advice from in the first place? They go onto YouTube, they see all of these advertisements from like Pyzel and Sharpe and Channel Island and all the big brands that are out there, and they see all these surfers like Mason the Ho, Tom Curran, John Florence, and Philip Toledo, and all the other guys that are on these big brand boards. They're like, oh, that looks amazing. That looks like something I want to do. But I think the big thing that people forget is that you are not a high-level professional surfer that can do that on a surfboard.
That weighs 68 kilos.
And also, you've got to think about as well what type of wave that they are surfing that equipment on. It is not Croyd, midwinter, semi 3-star Magic Lieweeds, Mushburger.
High tide.
with a classic 6.0, 18.5 by, 2 3/4 board that it sinks when you're paddling on it, and you have to dig out blind to paddle around on it. So I think when people go to choose their selective boards, I think their thought process is already kind of tarnished because they've got this ideal of what it is. But then when you come to somebody like me or Dan or you, John, and they're asking those questions and we say, right, you need this board, well, they've already got this fixation on something like a Pyzelian or a 77 Philip Toledo Sharpe. It's really difficult to separate the common sense from what they actually want to do from reality.
Yeah, I think that one of the hardest things is honesty. And the honesty comes down to answering a few questions, and that is how old you are, how fit you are, how often you're in the water, how long have you been surfing, and where do you regularly surf, right? If you answer those, you don't need to go to YouTube. You don't need to look at a load of guys in surf shops who clearly surf every day and rip and necessarily listen to what they're saying about a board. Sure, they'll give you what the dimensions are, they'll give you what the concaves are, they'll give you what the rocker is, all that kind of stuff. But that may not be a true reflection of what you need at that point in your surfing, because you're going to have one surfboard for the rest of your life. I mean, it's not like wives.
Yeah,
is it?
But we get the question all the time, what's a one board quiver?
Yeah, really
so you
tough.
got like another level of complexity, which is people deciding what they want to get from surfing. So how many times have we had the question, I surf because I want to have loads of fun, and then they're on like a 5'10" tiny little whatever it is, and you're like, probably not going to have loads of fun on that in the UK unless it's like once a year conditions.
Or you surf 4 times a week. Then you can have a lot of fun on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the difference. And so people often realise that there's a massive conflict when you're thinking about what boards to buy. Hence why you see people who surf all the time. They've got a quiver for all sorts of conditions, but not everyone's obviously going to have a full quiver of boards. And then you get into the conflict of, well, I want to have fun. I want to catch loads of waves. Actually, I just want to do massive turns. Or someone's like, I'll have one wave as long as it's one bomb and I surf it really good. I'm super happy. That's why I go surfing.
It's
but
surprising,
some people just
really.
want 60, 70 waves a session.
Yeah, because it's like when we went out, I mean, we've been on a few boat trips together and we've had not customers, but clients, guys that have come with us.
Yeah.
And you kind of like paddling at the end of the day and you've had a boatload of waves and you're like, did he even catch a wave? He was out there for 4 hours.
Yeah,
He may have only caught like 2 or 3 waves.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, is that enough? Like, are you happy with that? Because I wouldn't be. I would be super pissed off about it. Because I've spent a lot of money and I'm in the Maldives and the water's warm and I should be ripping. What's wrong with me? And actually, I'm not that good. So it's kind of like, well, just catch loads of waves. But then you've got that kind of like, you can get boards that enable you to catch loads of waves, but you can't necessarily turn them very easily.
Yeah.
So how do you get that balance between a board that's sort of easy to paddle and easy to catch waves, but then can also turn really easily with a good bit of rocker? Because if you don't do that, you're not going to progress your surfing. Yeah, it's like, what comes first?
How many times have we come out of a trip or whatever, or we're sat around at the end of the day, even at any surf, any country, and people have been in the water loads, so they get fit, so like they're past the point of catching waves as an issue.
Yeah, they've got the timing right.
Yeah,
got
so the volume's gone
right.
up. And then it's like, I just really want to turn, or every time they try and do a bottom turn, they spin out, top turn, spin out, or they're not even getting to the bottom or top turn because they're just on a board that goes straight basically, because it was probably quite cool and they saw it on YouTube and someone was ripping on it. But actually, it's a board that's just designed to go straight and catch waves. And then you hit that next level of frustration. And then the next question comes, well, what should I be riding?
What's the next board? What's the next board on from, not necessarily, let's say we've progressed past the foamy and we've now got maybe like a mid-length or a mini-mal, which, I can't really surf them very well.
I mean, they're a nightmare.
I sort of surf quite a bit. How the hell do you turn them? I mean, I see people turn them, obviously, but I'm like, I can't. You don't feel like you're cranking a nice big bottom turn and slashing off the lip with it.
I think it all comes down to people's actual reality, though. And I think where people like you guys come in with your Sharpe and advice is it needs to be real time advice. And one of the big things, and I know we talked about it before, is what you were saying earlier was people's honesty with themselves. I know personally that I'm not the best surfer in the world. I know I'm not going to be that guy that hits a bottom turn, cranks it vertically in the pocket and blasts the back of the wave up. I'm not in for it for that either. I know my ability is not like that. But I do know is I can draw out a bottom turn and come off the top and ride the wave and read it, which is a key, really key point as well. Because along with your surfing ability, you also need to be able to read the wave to see, is it, shouldering out? Is it just going to be jacking up and you've got to go as fast as fuck down that line to get out of that section? You've got to be able to read it to be able to do what you want on that wave. So again, I know I'm digressing a little bit about, technical abilities and looking how a wave looks, but that also means that you need to be honest with your surfboard selection. So that if you want to go straight and it's just jacking up down the line, well, go with that fast board that goes straight down the line. But also you need to have that technical ability that if you do want to do those big turns, is you've got to understand that to do those big turns on, let's say, a 7.0 or a 6.6 or something like that, a little bit bigger.
You need to be a really good surfer to get them to turn
You need to
properly.
come right back onto the tail and get your feet over those fins and drive that rail into the water to be able to project yourself. And I think a lot of people don't understand that technical aspect. So when they're buying these lots of different boards, let's say, for instance, they buy a technical board, which even if you just like turn it on the rail a little bit, it's going to turn. Or they don't understand that a 20 hasn't got the third fin and you can't drive it like you can a thruster and it's going to spin out, or your foot placement needs to be there somewhere. Those are the sort of things that you need to think about. How do I want to surf and what waves am I going to surf on?
Yeah, and I think there's there's obviously a level of honesty about that. But there's also, if you say, well, I want to be better, right? I mean, a lot of people are surfing because they want to get better at surfing. They want to get better at that craft. And they probably know that they're never going to turn pro. But what they want to do is they want to, big pocket full of waves. They want to do some turns. They want to feel like they've had a good time. And they may not be able to get into the water very often, so they want to get the maximum out of it. They're not happy with just one or two waves. What board do they buy? Because it's kind of like you can get and catch waves quite easily. But this is another myth that I don't think is right, is you can get a board which paddles really well, which is great, but it may not duck dive that well. And you've got to get out. So you've wasted all of your energy just trying to get out the back because you're duck diving a 50-litre board. I mean, that's not fun. And then when you get out there, firstly, you're knackered because you've just beat yourself to crap to get out there. And this is anything up to head high. Anything over head high, duck diving a big board,
that's
really difficult. Really, really difficult. So I'm kind of like, my rule of thumb is buy the maximum amount of literage that you can still duck dive. Because if you can't get out the back, you ain't catching any waves anyway. And then they're sort of like, well, I need a board that paddles really quickly so I can get into waves early. There's no getting into waves early. You're only going to get into wave when it's breaking. So positioning is significantly more important than fitness and paddling ability on a board. And how many times do you go to the surf and you come out and you watch guys who are better than you and you're like, they look like they've like stroked twice and they're straight in. Like, why can't I do that? I feel like I'm paddling for hours and then it passes underneath me. It's because you're not sat in the right place.
Or you've not reading
read
the
the
brake
road wrong.
properly,
Yeah.
and that also comes down to, I know,
Time in the water.
Understanding the brake that you're surfing. Being a local, maybe, I don't know, but if you surf, let's say our local Croyd, day in, day out, you're going to know what the sandbanks are, how they change with the tides, with the storms, where the best banks are, what best state of tide to sit on to go in for a couple of hours. I mean, that all comes into it. But I think we're kind of losing a little bit of traction here about, what board selection we're trying to talk about here.
So there's some myths though, Ads, like on that topic of board selection. So there's the questions that we get, right? You kind of working through some of the myths. So people will say, take just broadly, intermediate surfers just want to catch loads of waves. So they will buy a board that on the rack looks like it's designed to catch loads of waves. And immediately they're frustrated by it because it's loads and loads of litres. It's super flat. It's probably got a really wide nose.
Pretty parallel.
Yeah, pretty parallel. Not a lot of rocker. So this is the conflict of board selection. You can buy that board, right? And like as Dan's just said, you'll probably paddle out. You'll be knackered when you get there, but you'll probably paddle out. Then the frustration kicks in. So your next decision is, or the real decision is, what do I want to get from surfing? So I'm the guy that buys a board by watching all the pros on YouTube. And I know you're both laughing, right? But I do that because I'm prepared to drop anchor out back, wait for one or two of the bombs and just do as many turns, probably bad turns, as I possibly can. And I'm happy with that. And I'm going to go from there, right? And I'm the guy that Dan described as like trying to do some turns. If I fall off a whole bunch of waves or miss some, I'll live with that. I've made my decision. But so many people don't do that. They don't do the honesty.
But then they also get frustrated by the fact that they've just caught loads of waves and can only go straight. And every time they try and turn, they slide out.
Yeah, they chop the board back in immediately and it was the board's fault.
Yeah.
All the time. Oh, I've just bought this board. Can you have it back? Well, I need to sell it and I want a different board. I'm like, the different board's not going to solve the problem. So rocker, right? Everyone's like, volume is going to help me paddle out back. Yeah, I'm pretty heavy. I can paddle a really small board out back pretty easy because there's not a lot of volume, so it's easy to maneuver it around. Duck diving, I basically just sink. That's good. But where they're pretty flat, they just skip along the top of the surface. And when I'm paddling in waves, they're super flat, so it's dead easy. Imagine lugging 60 litres of big, flat, whatever it is around. I mean, so that's the first thing people got their heads around. Because Dan, how many times do you get a question about how much volume should I have?
Oh,
it's all the time.
I don't know why everyone's so hung up on it. It's kind of like it's the shape of the board and the water line and the outline and the rocker and the concaves. That's all much, much more important than what volume it is.
Yeah. Well, where the volume sits in the board is probably just as where is probably
almost more
important that how much. Well, you could have a board that is 24 litres. Let's just say, as an example, that is. Let's say it's a 5.5, but it could be a flat biscuit that's square, right? It's like paddling a bodyboard, pretty much. It's not really going to do that much. But if you stretch that out,
it will do different things.
It will do different things, and the rail lines and all. I mean, we're going into a little bit of detail with that. But I am one of those people that talks about volume quite a lot. However, I think my knowledge base behind understanding what volume is to what I need, we've talked about this before. So my go-to board is a Cymatic. If you did a volume calculator, my body weight size should be round about 28 to 30 litres, really, realistically. But the board I've got is 37 litres. But I know that where the volume is in that board to where the rail line is and how I want to turn it, I can catch loads of waves with that board and still surf it, pretty well.
So herein lies the big thing, right? Surely buying a board is whatever's going to give you most confidence, which in turn is going to give you loads of enjoyment. So I buy boards, and Dan, because I get them from you. They're pretty much all identical, right? There's very little difference.
We don't tell you.
Well, that's true. Yeah, just write stuff on the bottom.
Different numbers on the bottom.
Put stickers over the badges.
But broadly, I mean, there's no difference between a 511 and a 6.1. That's my entire range of boards. But I do that because it's not because they're right for me. It's just what I feel most confident on. It usually comes with a lot of falling off and a lot of...
I think confidence is a really good point as well, and one that we shouldn't overlook, because actually you're in a big, green, wobbly, scary place, right? And people drown at sea. And I'm like not a great... I don't like big waves.
We're back to Bantham again.
Back to Bantham. Yeah, well, not green, more brown and seaweedy. But I think a board that's going to give you the confidence, particularly when you're sort of at your limit, like that day at Anchors, I was like, that was pretty gnarly. And it took a while to paddle out there or to even get in the water. And to have that confidence on a board that you know that when you catch the wave, when you've sort of worked yourself deep enough in order to be in the right position, it's going to stick on that bottom turn and get you out of trouble. I'm like, I just need to get out of it as quickly as I can. I don't care how I'm going to do it. I just need to go straight. Until you catch a couple of waves, you make them, and you're like, oh, I'm going to drop out. I'm going to do a bottom turn. I'm going to come and ride off the top or whatever. It slowly and slowly builds. But we did had an interesting conversation with Marcio I went to see him over at the Surf Expo in Florida.
So this is Sharpe Shaper.
The Sharpe, the shaper behind Sharpe.
He's a man right now.
He is the man at the moment. Yeah, he walks on water at the moment. And I was talking to him about the new Storms model. And I said to him, look, my favourite board that you make is a disco. I think it's amazing. But I'm riding a 6.2 in order to get the volume that I think I need, which is around 34, 35 litres. And he's like, no, man, no, that's totally wrong. Like 6.2 is way too big for you unless you're like 6.5 foot tall. And
what are you,
like
5'10"?
5'10", 5'11" in heels, tall heels. And I said, well, look, shape me one then. What should I be riding? And he said, well, you should be on a 5'11". That's the maximum for a disco because it's got quite a small sweet spot. And he said, and if your feet aren't in the right place, the board won't turn like it should. And then you're fighting the physics of the board. It's like you're already starting at a disadvantage. And I said, so you don't go longer to get the volume? He said, no, never go longer, always go thicker. And he said, we're shapers, we'll put the thickness where it needs to be in the board that won't affect the way that it works. And he said, so, what weight are you? How often do you go surfing? Well, it's kind of like normal questions. Anyway, he made me one. And I got it, and I was super stoked. It's like, not the first custom I've had made, but it's the first custom where I've really talked to the guy that apparently knows what he's doing. Felipe seems to go all right on it. Anyway, it showed up, 5'11", 20, 2.7, Storms, 32.8 litres. And I was like, oh.
I remember you saying, this looks really small. And I'm like...
This looks super skinny. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this. But that board, relatively low entry rocker, not very much out the back, big deep concave through the middle, so it's basically flat underneath your chest with all the volume pretty much underneath where your arms and shoulders are. And first time I rode it was at the wave pool, where arguably you're like, I don't want to be under volume at the wave pool because it's not salt water, you don't float that well. Well, stroked into the first wave and was like, holy shit, this thing is sensitive. From there, never looked back. I'm like, I can ride a board that's 32 and a bit litres. Why am I on a 37?
So that, like, what you've done there, though, is you listened, first of all, to what Marcio had to say, because we get loads of people so obsessed with volume that they will, for customs, they will change the full dims of the board to hit a volume, and it shouldn't be that way around. It should be... You simply play with the thickness, but you leave the overall design of the board the same.
Yeah, otherwise you ruin it.
All the time. Yeah, because otherwise it's not the board. And none of us are shapers and really know how to do it properly. So you just play with the thickness. And it's because you knew how you wanted to surf. It's like, that Storms, I think, is going to fit what I wanted to do. You told him, obviously, your age and your weight. And he put more volume in.
About my age.
Yeah.
And obviously very much about my weight.
Yeah, and your height.
Said it was much higher.
But the board works right, so he didn't listen.
No, actually, I think the other side of it is when it showed up, I was like, look, I'm just going to trust him.
Yeah.
Like, I could have gone in there and said, no, I need a 35 litre, 6.0, whatever. This is what I'm going to ride. And if who shapes boards like since he was 11, if he says, no, you don't want that, this is what you want. I'm like, all right, I'll go with that. I'll give it a try. And it was perfect. I mean, it was ace.
Straight away.
Here lies the thing, though. He is like a legend. You know, it's like getting Mark Richards to shape you a board, or somebody like that from literally back in the heyday where the evolution of the shortboard came out of longboard and developed into what it is now. I mean, I've had some pretty bad experiences with standard shortboards. I bought a fourth shovel. It was 5'11". It was the dims that I thought I was. So it was round about the 30 litre point. And I was like, looked amazing board. Looked a little bit short because I was used to riding round about like 6.2s and 6.4s and stuff like that, you know, JSs and DHs.
That's a big drop down
and
inside.
Boards, yeah. And I took it to, again, talking about Morocco, I took it to Killers and I took it out there and I could not generate any speed in it, like at all, front side and back side.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it me? Is it the board? Like, I haven't changed the way that I generate speed on any sort of board before. You know, I took my 5.8 fish with me, I ditched the board and took that back out, straight down the line, nice and quick.
Yeah.
And it was killing me because, you know, I wanted a sort of like a step up board, a little bit more performance orientated for those sort of waves. So ever since then, I've kind of gone along the thickness route. I've looked, again, we're talking about volume, using that as a really bad example. But I've gone, right, I want to go a little bit thicker, cliche what you're talking about, because I want, you know, I don't get in the water all the time. So I want something that I can paddle around in. But I have the confidence in my ability as well, which I think is the kicker for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Is, you know, I know what I can do realistically. So that's where I went down the line of, I got a torque performance fish. Amazing.
Yeah, good board. Really good board.
Amazing board. But again, you know, going back to what you're talking about, Dan, with having the thickness, you know, in your chest area and where your shoulders are, that's exactly what the Cymatic is. I've not had the privilege of surfing Sharpe, so I can't really comment on any of those or any of the boards that you stock here. So, you know, fucking shoot me if you want to, but you know, there we go.
You haven't left the building yet.
I haven't left the building yet.
There's going to be one under your arm.
Yeah, well, it might be, but I might have to get it on sort of like, you know, pay a little bit later or something like that. I don't know.
Johnny terms.
We'll do your term.
I'll give you in fucking 20 years' time £1 a month. But yeah,
on the never ever, as opposed to the never.
Yeah. You'll get something. I'm not sure it'll be the full price though. But yeah, so the Cymatic for me, I mean, I know I'm talking about it quite a lot, but it's the perfect example for me. It's what you're saying. The volume is in the middle. It's hidden volume. So if you look at it, it actually doesn't really look that thick. But for the volume, it says 36.4 litres for a 510. It is, you know, you're like, Jesus, like where is it? But it's all in the middle, and then it thins out into that little crazy back tail that the Sci-Fi's got and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I love it, but I'm always looking, like we all are, for that evolution of what can I get out of something different.
For me, I think, you know, we've obviously got a privileged position where we can try lots of boards, and we do, because otherwise we can't really talk about them with any authority. And you know, I'll go through boards all the time, and
you do like one a week.
Not quite one a week, maybe a couple a month.
Snapping them from all them airs you're doing.
That's right, yeah. Snapping them from running them up the rocks mostly. No, I think that you've got, like, I kind of like, I have a picture in my head of the board I want to surf. And it is kind of like, how close can I get to the board that I want to surf? Even though I couldn't tell you exactly what that board is. And then I kind of like have phases where I'll be like, well, at the moment I'm riding at a captain, right? Which is an alone captain with one of the boards that we do, obviously. And I don't love it. I don't even like the way it looks. But what it does do, it's basically like I'm going to sort of say this and I'm going to be kicking myself, but I bought it because it's a short mid-length. It's a 6'2", 41 litre board. And my mid-length 610 was also 41 litres. I caught loads of waves, I had loads of fun, but couldn't really turn it because I can't work out how to do that. So I thought, I'm going to do this. I had 3 months off my board through the pandemic, so I didn't go surfing at all for 3 months. And I was like, I don't really want to go back on the mid-length. I don't want to break that cycle because it's getting too easy. So I took a captain out, big one, and I've loved it. But I've had to learn how to turn it because, like I said to you, this board is great, but I can't.
Yeah,
I can't
you
turn
can see it. You can see it when you're surfing as well. And you said something then. You're like, oh, I can picture the board I want to surf. So picture your storms. But if you're talking to someone about which board to buy, right? And most of us are only ever going to buy one board every now and again. Are you picturing the board you want to surf, or are you picturing the way you want to surf?
Or the way you can surf.
Yeah, and the board has to fit that slightly distorted view of how you think you should be surfing. So I'm basically talking about myself right now. Like,
well,
I want to do you all know this. I want to do all that sort of stuff. So I've got to get a board to fit that image.
Yeah.
Even though I do have a captain as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and people come into us and I'm kind of like, if you're like a good intermediate surfer and you're looking to progress, I would automatically always steer them towards a captain or an easy rider. Those are the two boards that I would say they are the ones that I found for me progress my surfing to a level where I could get closer to the board that I think I want to ride.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I never go back to them. Like I've gone back to the captain to get me out of this kind of like get a bit of fitness, catch a few waves, because I'm only worried about catching waves and getting to my feet quickly. That's my priority at the moment. And, on Sunday when we go out, or Friday at Lynmouth, I won't be on that. I'll be on the Game Changer again. Shit, sorry. Actually, that will be...
This was recorded in 2020.
Right, this will be coming out.
2019. This is pre-pandemic.
Yeah, this
long
will be
after.
Yeah, this is going to be at least 2 or 3 weeks after we've been, so...
But that means that I'm going to, I'll get towards those boards. I won't start on those boards.
Yeah.
But I'm in that privileged position of being able to...
And also, like, what's wrong with going backwards and forwards, right? So people want to progress and they want... Like, just... Part of it, I mean, if you surf, just have loads of fun, and we know loads of boys who just blast it down the line. They rip, but they're blasting it everywhere on 20s, catching loads of waves, having loads of fun. Do you know what? That's totally cool. And what I like about surfing right now is that philosophy in surfing is growing, just having loads and loads of fun. There's still like part of the culture which is how small is your surfboard, and
I think that's dying off though.
Yeah, and it's
I don't
going,
think that's
which is
a big
great.
deal anymore.
Yeah,
it's no longer do you feel a bit of a kook walking down the beach with a 7 foot.
Oh no,
something
because
like
everyone surfs. We've all got them. They're great to surf. So if you're like coming into it new and you're a beginner and you want to kind of choose a board, I think the thing is just to listen to the advice and don't be automatically swayed by what you see in the media around stereotypically what you should or shouldn't be riding. I think I would always encourage people to think about what they want to get from the sport. It's particularly if they're a beginner. What you're trying to get from the sport, you might be just trying to get fitness from it. So it doesn't really matter. But if you're just having a bit of fun, think about fun boards. I think the bigger question is then you start hitting intermediate surfers who will walk into your shop, Dan, and start saying, well, actually, I need something that's 26.83 litres and will make me surf like John. And then you're in a whole world of pain.
Well, I'd be like, I'd just turn around to him and go, get out. get out.
Sales prevention officer.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't sell anything though. And that then becomes a quandary because then you're in a whole world of, well, like, so how often do you surf?
You sure?
Because the big gain is purely like fitness and diet and being in the water all the time. Plenty of people will say if you want to surf good, it doesn't matter what you're surfing, just be in the water every day.
Yeah, I mean, I do surf lots of different boards, and I feel like I surf exactly the same way, regardless of what board I'm on. Actually, I feel like I do pretty much the same sort of shape turns and catch just as kind of many waves.
They're different, trust me.
Oh, are they? Well, they feel exactly the same. I can't really see myself, and God forbid I ever do.
No, we're going to be filming you soon. You're definitely going to see it.
I don't want to.
I think the other thing that's kind of lost a little bit in conversations, you talk about, what people's standards of what standard they are, and they need to be realistic as well.
Yeah, totally.
But you also need to understand what the conditions are that you're going to be generally surfing in. So let's be honest, the UK if you use a percentage scale, probably about 85.7% of the time, it's pretty rubbish. It's onshore, and you're looking for those places to go. And generally, if it's going to be half decent, those half decent days are far and few between. And even then, it's going to be like 2 to 3 foot. So do you really want a performance shortboard that is going to be supposed to be surfed in critical waves like in Sumatra or...
Yeah, with loads and loads of rocker. But how many people will come in and say, I'm having a board? So they've come in, and it's great that they've done the research and they've already got a school of thought. But as you said earlier, maybe they're automatically wedded to, I want a Phantom or I want a Gremlin. And then within 2 or 3 questions, you're like, I'm not sure that's going to work for them because they surf.
Well, I think the first thing is that you come in and you've got an idea of the sort of board that you want. So let's say you're coming in and you're like, well, I want a Phantom.
Yeah. And
you go, yeah, Phantom's great board. I've used one for a bit. You know, they're this, they're that, whatever, kind of step between the Gremlin and the Ghost, or going in that kind of Ghost family. So similar shape, forward foam, you know, all the rockers and concaves are similar, whatever. Then they go, I need a 510. And you look at it and go,
but you're 6'6".
Yeah, I don't know if you do need a 510. I think you might be better off with a 6'0". Or you get a guy that goes, yeah, I need a 6'8", and you're like, no, you can get away with a 6. Like you can get a shorter one. And again, it comes down to this sort of trust, because we don't want to give somebody a board that they're not going to enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just as hung up about it as the guys coming in. You know, the quandary about which board do I buy, and it. Actually, I'm not even sure that we're coming to much of a conclusion. It is an impossible question to answer, and surfing is really hard. It's really hard.
And there's things that you... So going back to your Storms example, right? It's all about where you've got to put your feet on the board to make that board go. And that's why good surfers can surf any board, because they'll find the sweet spot and they'll make it go, right? But if you're buying a board because of what you've read and you're trying to hit a volume and you're not taking advice and you're probably not massively honest with yourself about ads, you know, the 87.5% rubbish rate of waves that we've got here, whatever it is. If you're not processing all of those factors, yet you're still buying a board to hit a volume or a DIMS or something that you've read in a magazine, you're probably not going to have a great time. I mean, you'll probably get fit because you'll be paddling it around loads, but, you know, the ratio to paddling to actually stood on your surfboard is really, really rubbish.
Well,
it's completely the wrong way.
Even at our long left, the wave that we don't talk of, you're still not really up for very long, are you? In this,
well, I'm not, no, because
session.
I never make the sections.
No, it's because you've got too much rocker. You're not actually in the 2 hours that you're out surfing stood on your board for very long, which is why a wave pool is actually quite good, because
I average about 2K when I'm at that place that we don't talk about.
Yeah, but you've got the right board. We haven't.
You've got the right board. No, I'm still trying to get... No, actually, I'm on my captain and I'm loving it. I'm stood up quite a bit. And I'm getting it to turn now, which is also quite good.
Well, if you've got a board called the captain, you need the captain's hat underneath the swim cap you wear as well in the sea.
With a mankini.
Wasn't he wearing a hood the other day? And it was like 12 degrees outside. I was sweating.
Yeah, I disowned him at that point.
To be fair, I was also sweating, but I quite like being warm.
Yeah, fair one.
It was protection for the fact that people kept running us all over.
Yeah, it was a bit of carnage, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, man, I don't think I've been at a place for many a year where... I sounded really old then. For many a year...
When this was all fields.
Yeah. Hey, have you found that fin yet?
Men and boys.
I saw you on Instagram looking on the rocks like 2 days later for a fin. It's been about 5 tides since you lost it.
Stu had this marvellous idea that if you go down at low tide, you might be able to find it. I was like, I probably think I've lost it a little bit further offshore than that. But I went down and had a look anyway. It was a nice walk. I got absolutely smashed by the weather and nowhere to hide either. But yeah, a few more pound out of pocket because FCF have seen me right off a treat. But
they're not doing the single fin replacement anymore, are they?
Well, for keel fins, they don't do them in this country, like single keel. But you can get the performers and the carvers and stuff. You can get those.
There's some downstairs ads. I'm sure you can leave with a few in your back pocket.
Yeah. You distract him and I'll take the shelf.
No, that's my trick.
Look at that! Damn it.
So I mean, so going back to boards and stuff, like I think there's a whole world of honesty that's going to really help people out when they're selecting a first board. I wouldn't get massively weighed down with dims and all those sorts of things. Just decide what you want to do, and decide how you want to surf, because whatever you decide, there will be some conflict in your board. So it's, unless you're a pro, right? This is just my philosophy. Unless you're a pro, you're going to choose like a short board, right? Loads of short boards go in all sorts of conditions, but you might be foregoing a little bit of wave volume because it might be slightly smaller for you, or it might have a little bit of rocker. But when you're on a pretty decent wave, I know that's rare. Amazing. You're going to be like doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Or even you're just blasting it down the line because they're fast as hell.
If you get a 20, you're going to have loads of fun. You might get loads and loads of waves. And we all surf together, and we all surf very different boards. Some of us are on a really high wave count, but you're just blasting down the line, right? Having loads of fun going straight. Some of us have a much lower wave count, but might be able to hook a couple turns from time to time. And that's all good. I mean, I don't know who that person is, because it doesn't happen that often.
It's none of us.
But it comes to the point that you just got to decide how you want to surf and what you're there to do, which sounds weird because it's surfing, right? And how it's all fun and it's all super cool.
I think we're going to need to try and summarise this, aren't we, a little bit? Otherwise, it's just basically 2 hours of waffle. I think honesty is the first thing. Be honest about where you surf, how you surf, and where you want your surfing to get to. And that it's a progression, isn't it, from where you are to where you want to get to. I think I'm a bit of a geek, so I'm watching all the YouTube videos and I'm watching all the reviews and all the boards, and I'm kind of like, Christ, every board paddles really well and gets into waves really early, and I'm like, they can't all do that, can they? They've got to be a little bit different. And then through that, there's some intricacies on kind of entry rocker. We didn't talk about that. Low entry rocker is going to be easier to paddle waves,
easier to catch waves. Yeah.
And you may be able to get away with a little bit less volume. And volume's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we should all be on 30-litre boards. I'm certainly not. And I quite like a bit of extra volume. Gives you the confidence to paddle around. Gives you the confidence to get into waves, catch them.
But it's part of the overall board.
It's not the only one thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of outline is really important. Entry rocker, exit rocker is quite important, and then obviously what's going on underneath it with concaves and all that kind of stuff. Marry all of that together, and you've got one very confusing picture that you need to try and make some headlight of. And I think that's probably talking to the guys in the shops, not just us, but anyone, and being honest with yourself a bit,
I think also what it comes down to as well is that, unfortunately, surfing is one of those sports, lifestyles, whatever you want to call it, where it is very much so trial and error.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
You're going to buy, like I said, Absolutely. I bought a fourth shovel, didn't work for me, bought another board. It's going to happen. But I think we're trying to get at here is not to get focused on those reviews and the dimensions of especially volume, and again talking about honesty and understanding what your level is going to really help you, because I'd say 90% of people are never going to be a professional surfer, so you need to work out what you want out of it and listen to advice, like you're saying.
Yeah, and I'd add in one last little bit as well, which is, we have already said it, but where are you going to go surfing? So I always encourage people when they're coming on trips, and we've done countless number of trips. First question, what boards do I take? I've never been to Indo. What boards am I going to take?
So I'm going to buy a brand new Step Up 77, which I've never surfed before in my life, and paddle out at at jails or something. It's no,
totally.
I wouldn't do that.
And then you got to decide, right, where you're going, what the waves are going to be like, and kind of plan for everything. So we've had the flip side where, you do get the people turn up on boards that are suitable for that wave, suitable for their level of surfing, whatever that looks like. But then you get people that will pack their mid-length or their flat Seabiscuit, 0 dimensions, it's just a cardboard box with a fin in it, and wonder why they're not turning, or wonder why they're kind of not making the section unless they go dead straight. So there is a big thing of basically just looking at where you're going to go surfing, and you don't always have to have just one board for everything. This one board that does everything. There
The
are
elusive-
boards that will surf every wave.
I've got
but
11
they'll all do
boards.
different.
I've got 11.
Yeah.
11 surfboards. That my missus doesn't know about.
Dan,
10 of them she doesn't know about.
hang on, is this like confession time?
No, don't even go there.
Oh no, let's not start that.
I
one.
think that's a really good point, because actually I'm kind of like, we've got, like, how many boards can you fit in the car? You don't go to the beach with 11 boards, do you? You go to the beach with maybe 1, maybe 2, perhaps 3 if you're feeling a little bit spicy, or you've no idea what you're going to turn
Well,
up
it
to.
depends if you've got a Mercedes Sprinter with a little
That's-
storage compartment.
That's
in the
also
bottom.
true, yeah.
Depends on whether you're hiding from your missus.
That's exactly, because they never come out of the car. Wait a minute. But I think there is one board that is the right board for that time.
Yeah.
And that's the board that you want to try and get. And that's the one that makes you smile, gives you confidence, and enables you to progress. Because you can buy the wrong board and you'll regress.
Yeah, you
But
don't
there's
have
an
any
element
fun.
of buying the right board and stepping very slightly backwards in order to step further forwards. And those are the boards that you want to try and find. And they're different for different people. I know which mine are. And depending on the time of year, depending on the wetsuit, depending on the weather, I'll go backwards and forwards through that kind of quiver of maybe 3 boards maximum. Sure, I've got the 77 in the shed, which I'm waiting for Indo. And I've surfed at Watergate a couple of times when the surf's been clean and hollow, not hollow, but a little bit steeper face, and been fine on it, and felt like I've been turning exactly the same way that I've been turning my Storms, which is a totally different surfboard. So I think it's really kind of capturing that board for the one that's right for you at the time.
Yeah, and what I do in contrast is, I don't know how many boards I've got.
They're all the same.
They're all the same. There is nothing between any of them. The only thing that really varies is the rocker and the tail.
Actually, that's not strictly true, because you do
Well, I just
your
get
quiver. I
whatever
know
I'm
your
given.
quiver
Yeah.
pretty well because I order it. HC2, very different to a Storms, very different to
Yeah.
a 77.
No, that's a fair shout. Yeah.
So those are the 3 boards that you surf most of the time. HC2 probably the most. Storms actually a lot recently.
yeah.
They share similar characteristics, as in kind of like.
Yeah, neither of them can do airs. Terrible.
No,
Neither of them.
they are junk for that, aren't they? That
But
could
if you've
be-
got a 77, surely you can do a massive air like Philippe Toledo.
Oh, yeah, easy. Well, he won Margaret's on a HD 2.5.
Which you've just
So I
ordered.
just ordered one. So all that stuff we just said.
this 51 minutes and 14 seconds we've just been
scrap
doing,
that.
you just absolutely smashed it out of the park.
Yeah.
What we've done is we've
Do what
just
the pros do.
absolutely described the way not to order boards.
Actually,
I
we've got 3 different people here ordering
do it
boards in
different
3
ways.
different ways.
Yeah.
And neither of them are right or wrong.
No, but and to that point,
Well, yours are.
So mine are all wrong size for me. Can't surf them, but I really enjoy it, and I don't see myself changing. And actually, when I've gone on to other boards like twinnies or longboards or just messed about on foamies, you've got a completely different mindset. So you're messing around, you're having loads of fun. But if the waves are kind of okay, and I'm like going to go longboarding, oh my god,
I think I'd shoot myself.
Yeah, I can't
I
do
tried
it.
I tried a 9-foot board once.
I'm exhausted. I can't catch any waves.
What do they call it?
See, I'm
Logging.
going to completely disagree with all of you because
I didn't get on
both
with
of
it
you,
very
because I like everything from a 5.820 to a 9.8 SUP, and I surf them all.
Yeah,
and I enjoy surfing.
That's because you're open-minded and really respectful of the culture of surfing.
Yeah, I'm internally a hippie. My car's just full of weed. There's
Seaweed.
There's a stereotype for you right there.
I've been hanging out at Bamford again.
And to tie up what you two are saying, the surfboard that I should be riding is not the one I'm in the sea with. It's in my car, and
Yeah.
that's how I always see it.
Yeah.
I should be on my 20.
Yeah.
I should be on my Cymatic. I should be on my 7.0. That's what I should be
That's
on.
the trouble with having more than one board at the
Yeah,
beach.
sure
'cause
See,
you
I
can't-
never have that. I'm like, whatever board I'm on in the sea, I'm like, I know I'm on the right board.
Well,
Because
I have-
basically, I don't like surfing anything else.
I
I've
have
got
been
so
better
accustomed
recently.
to them.
I have been better because, well, to be honest with you, I've been riding that 7.0 Luke Young that
Yeah.
I took out, and I love it. But I'm a hipster internally, and I love Devon Howard, and I love Joel Tudor, and I love the way they surf. Even Joel Tudor's son's amazing. Mikey February. That's how I see myself surfing when
You
I'm
look
asleep.
a bit like that.
I look nothing like any of them. I'm probably about 3 foot smaller than all of them.
I bet Mikey February doesn't go to Lynmouth at low tide and look for a single fin in the rocks.
No, probably not. No, he just surfs it with one fin on the side. I mean, like, you can get away with it, can't he?
Take all the fins out.
Well, asymmetric boards.
Yeah,
we're never going to go down that route.
No, they're totally wrong.
But the point of all of that, I think, from what I was trying to say, is there is a lot to be said for thinking about the sorts of waves that you're going to surf as well. And that's a big part of it. Because we do travel a lot, and we do see the odd kind of car crash or incident, or just basically a whole bunch of really cool dudes getting mega frustrated because, for whatever reason, like a whole bunch of reasons, most of it usually is down to fitness and their own opinion of themselves.
Actually, I think also his confidence is down to being brave enough to go deep enough in order to catch the waves easily. Because otherwise you're trying to scratch into something you're not quite on, you're just off the shoulder, and somebody's underneath you already.
Are you looking at me?
No, I'm not looking at you, but we know who we are talking about.
We know we're thinking of. No, you're looking at me, I can tell.
I am looking at you, John, yeah.
We were calling you in. It was your turn on that big bomb. It was on the right board. Go.
On that note then, lads, been a pleasure. I think we agree to disagree.
It's simple. It's all super easy, right?
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah. I think
actually that's it. It's not easy. And so it's a process. You have to go through it.
Trial and error.
Try loaded boards and other people's boards. Just give it a go. Don't be afraid of literage. And the most important thing is the best board is the one that you have the most fun on. Doesn't matter what shape or colour or anything it is.
And just throw double shackers. That fixes everything.
Yeah, shouting rad and cowabunga.
Yeah.
All those cliches.
I do that all the time.
Lads, been a pleasure.
Nice one.
Cheers.
And that's it. If you're enjoying the podcast, please like, share and subscribe on your podcast provider, and also leave a little review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.